what are some positive takeaways that you can hold on to as like good memories from this relationship?
Yeah. I mean, he will forever be the most important person to me this year.
Janet.
This is weird. I don't think I've ever cried on the podcast.
Where's this coming from? Is it the question that I asked about the good?
It
wasn't on the outline, so you were not prepared for this question. We were focusing on the negatives, apparently.
I mean, this year was really, really hard.
We did not have to do this episode. Are you?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Just an update that the mini shows that you have been loving every Tuesday,
Living Well with Janet, No Dumb Questions with Mel,
and Spill a Baby Tea with Helen, they are going to be moved to their own individual feeds. So you can actually search for each of our show titles and find them not under the ABG umbrella, but as their own individual shows now. Fun, exciting.
Yes. And all of the old episodes from each of our shows will also be populated on those feeds. So search for them individually wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere.
So something that I've been noticing with you, Janet, is that it seems like you are in your play era. I don't know if our listeners who are tuning in would agree or not, but like from the outside, it would appear that you're just having fun. You're experimenting with like different types of content. You got your celery juice thingy that you're doing. Wow, this was not a good motion with my hands. For anyone tuning into the YouTubes, you got like your trad wife content, your tree poses with the fit checks. Like you are in your experimental or toll?
Experimentation era, maybe?
Experimentation era. And, from the outside and also as a friend, there's like this new level of confidence that I'm seeing in Janet that I feel like was kind of disappeared for a little bit, if I'm being honest. And it feels like it's coming back. So for our listeners out there who are just fans of Janet, today's going to be a little bit of a Janet life update. Okay.
You
ready for that?
Pressure of these lights.
Yeah, these lights got brighter for some reason. Did it turn purple or is it just me?
Yeah.
But I want to give our listeners an update because we put our lives out there for so many years. And I feel like a lot of times we're just talking about different types of topics, that are more about like at the last one we recorded, it was like our to-do list. But really just wanting to use this one to check in on how Janet is doing. So how would you describe this phase of your life right now?
Yeah. Thank you for asking, because I always feel like we joke about how like that question, how are you doing? How are you really doing? Can be kind of a loaded question, right? And you are right. Like if anybody watched our episodes from the beginning of this year, I really was like, I was not in a good place. I was just feeling so underconfident. And I think some of it was the breakup and not just I think it was the very specific type of breakup that happens at that point in one's life or in my life that really totally upended everything that I was working towards and thinking about and made me reconsider everything. So I really just called everything in my life into question. And when that happens, you literally, I feel like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. It was so hard to like just show up. And I did also share, starting from like after the breakup, I was like, I'm going to be in my play era to experiment, right? Because I knew logically that's like the next step. After you go through a big collapse of something, you are starting fresh. And in order to, when you have nothing, in order to find something to work towards, you have to try and experiment with a bunch of different things. So now that it's been a good like 8-9 months since that time, since the beginning of the year, like I am feeling more confident again. And it's not like I have things figured out and all of that, but like I just generally am feeling more like myself and more, able to try different things and play around.
Yeah. I feel like when you're not in, and this is for anyone, not you specifically, but generally speaking, like when you're not in good headspace, you just can't get out of the bed, or you just don't want to try new things. You just don't want to put yourself out there, you know, because it is very vulnerable to put yourself out there, especially if you're being experimental with like different things that are more public facing, right? Or even if it's like trying out a new class or something, like you're putting yourself in a position where it's scary to try something new. So you need to have that little bit of confidence to get there. Oftentimes we do see some of our listeners like IRL, in real life, off the pod, right? And one of the things that, you know, gets brought up, I feel like more frequently with you than with myself or Mel, is like the relationship that they all saw. I think that was more Mel in the past because we definitely went through her entire cycle of the relationship also, but you're like the latest one for people to have tuned into and gotten really invested in. I know like when you were recording that, it took a little bit to like push through because it's not the easiest to talk about. How did you feel after putting so much of the like the public details of that relationship out there?
Yeah. I mean, I will say I understand why people ask because I kind of addressed my romantic life. And then after that, for the last year, like I haven't really been talking about very much of dating. And I think some of that was like, I was happy to share things as they were happening because it felt like it was a part of the story of what I had shared with everyone. And I was also processing things myself. But I think there was definitely I don't know if you want to call it a halo effect or something after that, where I realized, whoa, like I think that was probably the most personal that I've ever shared in public. It was just watching this arc of like my life. And like I said, when that relationship ended, it wasn't like just that one thing in my life felt like it shifted or didn't go as planned. It made me call into question everything. And so I just suddenly felt so exposed and so sensitive. I felt like I was like a walking wound, and you could just look at me and you could be saying a nice thing, but it was like, oh, it's like too sensitive. And so I don't regret sharing anything that I did because I feel like, and especially to our listeners, and this is something I'm like really thankful for, everyone was so supportive and people felt like they could relate. And that was like the biggest thing that I think I wanted. I think with any of the things that we share that are really vulnerable and can be like kind of challenging internally, it's like if you know someone else got some benefit out of it, like it feels like it's worth it, right? So yeah, but it would definitely, I think it was one of the moments where I just was like, whoa, I'm really now understanding what it's like to do work that's public facing. And as part of that, to be sharing such personal things about your life and leaving yourself open to judgment, you know?
So are we ending this episode here?
But no, it's like,
I'm not forcing you.
Which brings us to our actual conversation today.
Which brings us to today.
Yeah. When we think about successful businesses, our minds usually go to the great products they sell, or the cool brand and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet, and the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts its conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. The secret's out, it's no secret. Businesses that want to grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ABG, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ABG to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/ABG. No, I still think it's good to talk about stuff. And eventually I will have to talk about, like, eventually it's still something to share. And it is something in some of my more recent content I'm exploring in general, the idea of like marriage and kids and future stuff, which is kind of the the thing that then you work backwards from is, why are you dating? What are you looking for in dating, right? So
well, explain that a little bit further then. Like, has your vision of just like future and what you expect for your future, has that changed? And
yeah.
are you, I mean, I know the answer to this. Our listeners don't. We haven't talked about this in a while. Like, are you dating? Are you trying to achieve something, down the line, even like through dating?
Yes. So I think the biggest thing that I have felt a reaction towards is I do not want to treat dating like it is a means to an end. And I know that that seems counterintuitive if you're like working towards building a family, all this stuff. But I feel like I tried that approach, and it wasn't just in the last relationship. It was like 3 to 4 years of dating people with that type of mindset. And it just continuously was not working. And I kind of hit a point of just like, A, exhaustion, but B, just like common sense. If you're doing things one way and it's not working, something needs to change, right? And I don't necessarily know, I don't have like a new, very organized, deliberate plan. But I do know that what I feel is right in my gut right now is that I should not be trying to be very like planned and deliberate about it. I need to learn to kind of just go with what's presented to me, what feels good, what is needed. And that's kind of what I've been doing. But I will say it's like scary because I think it is so opposite of what I was doing before. And I think a lot of, you just said like our last episode, we talked about, your to-do list. I think a lot of the persona that we have is someone who's really put together, who has a plan, works towards that plan. But I'm finding that when it comes to my romantic life now, that's not what I want to do. And then it does make me call into question, like, do I want a family? Do I want a partner? How badly do I want those things? And one of the bigger things I think in the last couple of months was I started to give myself permission that they're going to happen in my 40s. If I have kids, it'll happen in my 40s. If I get married and find my person, maybe it'll happen in my 40s. And that just took some pressure off of like, I'm not internally working to like beat this timeline of before I turn this age or that. And I was like, you know what? That's just not like, that's not how I want to live my life.
Yeah.
Will I regret it in the future? Maybe. But when I get there, then I will learn to own that decision.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's such a big decision and shift in sort of like what you want your reality to be. And that's a big decision. That's a big shift in, knowing Janet, since she was younger, being the older sister, being super organized, being like, high achieving, certain, pillars of success, having to reach those. Like, I'm sure the image of like marriage and family was something that you did have in mind. Was it after each relationship / breakup in the past that you got closer and closer to this realization of like, okay, you know what? I got to put the pressure off of that because this doesn't feel right anymore, that I keep putting so much pressure on it. Is it like after each relationship, or did you wake up one day and you were like, oh, sudden realization, I don't want to do that anymore?
It actually is more like in my 20s, like I didn't necessarily think about marriage and kids. And I was always my career was my identity and was what I thought would be like my legacy that I was focused on. And only when I hit the 30s age range did I start feeling the biological urge. And then when everyone around you starts going down this path, it's kind of natural. You're just like, oh yeah, I want that too, right? Yeah. But now that I'm on the other side of like, I think in my life, like most of my friends and family members are like married and with kids or working towards on that path. Yeah. And so like, that's already, I've kind of become accustomed to being the odd man out now for a couple of years. And now realizing like, I feel like I'm almost waking up from the haze of that period in my 30s of was kind of out of character for me to be like, this is a top priority that I need to find a husband and have a family. Yeah. Like I still want those things, but do I need them? Not enough to me for like, to like push forward in a way where I'm like maybe sacrificing certain other priorities like myself, I guess.
At what point did you come to that conclusion though? Was it like something that you saw, a lifestyle that like someone perhaps you saw online and you're like, oh, I actually want to switch my mentality with it? Like at what point did that switch for you?
Honestly, it happened with the breakup. Yeah. And then, but it wasn't like an automatic, like it was the breakup happened and then I thought, okay, I think I could be okay without this. Yeah. And then it took a couple of months to be like, okay. And then I think also, seeing maybe just like meeting more women. I was talking to Helen I grabbed coffee this past week with a girlfriend who is in her 40s and is making the decision now to like have a kid on her own through like a sperm donor. And just, I think seeing more different examples of ways to do that. I'm like, why am I putting all this pressure I'm working towards this? Like, it's not, so it's like a slow over time. Like there was a click and then it was over time like, okay, maybe more this direction than the other. Okay, now even more this direction than the other. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC.
I love hearing that because I think even in like thinking back to other times where we've sat down for like podcast episodes and we've talked about this. I know in the past you've said like, if it doesn't work out, like I want to adopt, but like kids were always something that you wanted in your future. And now like I hear you say things like, if it doesn't happen in my future, I'm not going to put pressure on it. It just is what it is, And it seems like you've accepted that. And that has led to a lot more confidence in who you are and also where you are in life right now.
Yeah. And I think maybe some of the underconfidence for a while was still trying, like I had a gut feeling of one direction, but it being such a 180 from what I was doing before, there is a lot of like uncertainty and like, I don't know which direction should I be going towards? What is it that I really want? And I think, just over time, I felt more like just take the pressure off myself. And what my gut is really telling me is like, there's only so much you can control, right? And I don't want to make a decision to be with someone or not be with someone for something that may not even be in my control or may not happen. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful message to send to just like our listeners out there. I know it's just us two right now in this room, but I feel like what the message that you're sending out is really applicable to so many women who are in this phase of their lives where, you see other people like having kids and getting married and you're like, okay, what am I doing with my life? But to get to this place of acceptance, like you're an example that you had seen for yourself, like you're becoming an example for other people as well. To accept where you are. I am very happy to hear that. But our listeners are curious, is Janet dating?
What have I been doing? What has my love life been like? So I was in another relationship.
After the last
the more public relationship that I was in that I shared with all of you. If you haven't seen those episodes, you can go back. I think I was in a very different headspace, but I think was a headspace that a lot of other people could relate to where you find your person and you're like, let's do this, right? And when that doesn't work out, and then I had kind of this like flipping around, I met someone in December. So it was like a couple of months, it was a good 4 months after that relationship. And I was not ready to date again. I did not go out with the intention of dating. Me and this person met each other through mutual friends and we developed a friendship and then romance kind of developed from there. And then just in the last like month, we decided to call it quits. So first relationship after a really big kind of, I don't know. It's not really it was life-shifting, I guess, for me. Relationship.
I feel like that this relationship kind of defined your past year, right? Would you say that? Because it's almost December again.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. He was my person for 2024.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I don't know if anyone out there is like, oh, Janet's been dating. But do you feel like you navigated this relationship differently than your last relationship, given this different mentality that, you've shared with us that you were in?
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like it was like almost opposites. like of how I treated the relationships. And I think part of it was feeling a little bit burned from like being so certain about someone and being so certain about a certain outcome and then having that blow up in your face a bit. So with this person, I was so careful and yeah, it was, I think we both were mutually like had conversations around like, because like I said, I was not ready to start dating and I wouldn't have like dated, I wasn't out looking for people. He was someone that I connected with as a friend. And then slowly it developed into more. And when it was developing into more every step of the way, I was very like cautious and like, because I think I felt really burned. And part of it was also like the last time I gave someone a title of my boyfriend, like something really hard happened.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of trying to like be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hiya Health. Did you know that flu season typically runs from October to May with peak activity between December and February? Basically, you and we are in it right now as I speak, which is why every night I always have to administer to my son one Hiya vitamin. You know, most kids' vitamins are packed with sugar and junk, but these Hiya vitamins are nothing like that. They're made with 0 sugar, pressed with 12 organic fruits and veggies, and packed with all the essential vitamins and minerals our little ones need, like vitamin D, B12, and zinc. And it tastes amazing. Hiya fills in the gaps in our kids' diets. It's non-GMO, vegan, allergy-free. Yes, allergy-free, which I feel like is a huge win for so many parents out there. And the best part, it comes straight to your door. They'll send you these eco-friendly refills every month, so it's one less thing to worry about. We've worked out a special deal for you all for their best-selling children's vitamin. Get 50% off your first order at hiyahealth.com/ABG. This deal is not available on their regular website. Go to hiyahealth.com/ABG and give your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. What are 3 words or phrases that you would use to describe this relationship that you were in?
I would say this relationship, because it developed from a friendship, that was like really the core of like what to me defined our connection. I would say that the relationship was incredibly supportive, really loving, and just like non-judgmental. And I don't know if open-minded is the right word, but just non-judgmental. Yeah, like so supportive.
Yeah. I mean, so you've shared it did not work out. And this was pretty recent. So you were okay with talking about this, even though it's so recent. But I know you're still feeling a lot of the things that you feel after a breakup. When you first met this person, were there any like red flags that sort of led to the core incompatibilities? Some things that you might have marked as, okay, maybe this, might not work out and maybe it became a bigger thing or
yeah
without having to share what those core incompatibilities are.
I mean, he was definitely someone where I felt such a strong connection and draw towards because of certain shared experiences, and also like I think we're both very analytical and curious people, and so we would just talk about a lot of things, and that deep conversation, as I've shared in past episodes, is like a really core thing for me. When I find that with someone, it's really hard to find that with a person. But then there were also like things that were so different about us. I think we had such different backgrounds and kind of like social upbringings that like our core group of friends were really different. And even though when we would hang out just the two of us, it would work out. But sometimes like when I met his friends or when he met my friends, you could feel like that there was just a difference in, I don't know, in the way that people like see the world or their humor and things like that. And so that was kind of something that I think on both ends for both of us in both social groups, like that felt like there was a little bit of difference. Like it was social, it was a little bit, some of it is cultural too. It's just a lot about our backgrounds made it so that certain things would rub each other the wrong way, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I think as a friend and just sort of observing you in this new relationship, I will say that I think there were times or moments where it felt like you would appear like uncomfortable or like a little bit nervous whenever you brought him to like our friend group.
Yeah.
did you feel that way too? Like when because you're saying you might have felt that way with his friends, but like, did you also feel that way when you were bringing him to our friend group too?
Yes, definitely. And I know, and I've had conversations with you and multiple of our friends who are like, are you okay? Like, you seem like really uncomfortable when he's here.
Yeah.
One thing in general to know about me is like, I will always be that way even if it's like bringing up another friend into a friend group. I think I just get very sensitive in terms of like how everyone's doing. But knowing that he was going to, like, because we have those differences, right? And I'm like, okay, I can already sense like certain people are going to say things that are going to rub him the wrong way and him vice versa. Or like there was just, certain things like that. And then it probably got to a point where it was like I was overly sensitive. Yeah. And so even things that I didn't need to be like sensitive about, I felt like on behalf of the person, like I thought this might be like taken the wrong way or whatever.
Yeah.
And now with a little bit more hindsight from it, I think there was also a lot of self-judgment because I felt like maybe dating him, I was like, because like I said, I wasn't quite ready to start dating it, right? He just happened to my life. And I could see from other people's perspective that I just started living in the minds of other people and start thinking like I would be judging myself. Like, is she ready to date yet? This doesn't seem right. And also like I don't know if it's like on paper, but he was like almost the opposite of the last person that I dated.
Yeah. And
so I could feel from the outside, like a friend perspective, you'd be like, are you like rebounding or like is this really what you want? And so I think oftentimes it was hard for me to be present and like have a good time with people because I was just in my head judging myself.
Yeah. For the record, I was not judging you with those things. Like the things that you just said. I would always be happy for you if you found the right person. Doesn't matter when. If it's like a week after your last breakup, like who knows? If it's the right fit, it's the right fit. You can't time those things out, So just for the record, I was not thinking that for you. And it was probably, unless you heard it from someone else, like I could see how for you yourself, like bringing someone new into the group and like, so like 4 months is not that long of a period of time. Like I would be in my own head as well.
Yeah.
But when I did see that, like you wore the nerves on your face, I feel like, Janet, are you happy? Like I can't tell. That's where my concern was for you as a friend. But then like I've told you, it's like if you're happy, then I will always support you and be, happy with whoever you're with.
I appreciate that.
But do you feel like this was one of the reasons, right? Where there was a little bit more friction or it was a little bit more difficult when it came to you going into his friend group or him going to our friend group. Is this something that you realize now for like future relationships? Oh, this is something that I do need to be a little bit more compatible in the future, or are you kind of okay with that?
Yeah. Actually, this is the first time that or I guess, have I had in the past? I mean, first time in like adult relationships where I feel like there was a bit of friction between the person I'm dating and each other's social friend groups. And like, I don't need my person to be best friends and integrated in the group, but I think I've realized that it can't be so different. Like if it takes a lot of work to get people to adjust to each other, that's less about them not getting along with your friends, you not getting along with their friends, but maybe more of a deeper like you guys are just really different then. And like the way you might spend your time, your humor, all of those things, there might be some things that just aren't quite like fitting, I guess.
How does that make you feel about how you see your friends then, or like how you interact with your friends versus how you interact with a loved one? To know that they're so different just in terms of outlook or background, but you still love each to their like own.
I think maybe because like when it comes to like social opinions about things, like I'm actually very like, I think I'm kind of open and I'm not very like strong one way or the other, but I have loved ones or friend groups that might lean more towards one way or another, right? And so that's where it's like, I feel like I can be in different spaces and be really good friends with someone, even if they have leaned very one direction and then the other, but then if you put them together, they might butt heads. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you're like Mother Teresa. You're good with everyone. Actually, I've never met her, nor do I know too much about her, but just like a peaceful, calming person that can get along with anyone.
I guess, yeah. Maybe I think I am kind of like a flexible personality type, so maybe that is why.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have a running list of books they've been meaning to read but just haven't gotten around to? Making the time to read can be so hard, which is why I appreciate platforms like Audible where I can get my fix in audiobook format. I am able to enjoy Audible while I'm doing other things like commuting through LA traffic, doing household chores, exercising, whatever. Audible makes it easy to be inspired and entertained as part of my everyday routine without needing to set aside extra time. I've been listening to Revenge of the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, a follow-up to his original book, The Tipping Point, which is one of my all-time favorite social psychology books. Honestly, if it weren't for Audible, I probably wouldn't get to it. Audible has the best selection of audiobooks without exception, along with popular podcasts and exclusive Audible originals, all in one easy app. Find genres you love and discover new ones. Explore bestsellers, new releases, plus thousands of included audiobooks, podcasts, and originals that members can listen to all they want, with more added all the time. There's more to imagine when you listen. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days with your first audiobook included. Visit audible.com/ABG or text ABG to 500-500. That's audible.com/ABG or text ABG to 500-500.
I think with any relationship, whether you're in the relationship still or now you're out of it, there's always room for reflection to make it better. Like with this relationship, yes, you're reflecting and saying, ideally, there's some harmony between, your friends and your significant other. Is there anything else from this relationship that you're taking away as, maybe something to look out for in your future relationship?
I think a lot of my hesitation came from self-judgment, like you were saying, of like thinking like, oh, I don't think am I not ready to be in a relationship yet? It's so soon, or he is so different than the other, my past person. I think that's probably my biggest takeaway, is like to stop questioning so much in my head, because I think the uncertainty that my friends picked up, and me, even with him too, feeling kind of like needing it to take more time and be slower about it. Like, yes, those are valid, but at the same time, it happened because I got so in my head and I was judging myself, and I was living in anxiety and potentially over evaluating, like, is this going to work out? Is this something I can live with? Because like any big breakup trauma is like a huge word to use and maybe not the right word. But I think once you go through something like that, that's so painful, you are scared to death to go back in. And so at the same time, you're scared to death to go back in. But then also when you meet someone and you have a connection with someone, that is so rare.
Yeah.
It is so rare when you feel like you can really like trust someone and feel supported by them and really admire and respect them and feel that mutually given back to you. But I got so caught up in on paper, maybe he looks so different than the past person I was dating. And also, oh, it's so soon from the last person. Like, I think a lot of maybe going forward is just, I need to feel safe again to just go into like my feelings and my gut and not be overthinking things, I think.
Do you feel like you yourself then were the one that sort of like broke up this relationship? Because it sounds like a lot of the reasoning was more of the self-sabotage versus it being a lot of just qualities on his end.
Yeah.
Or was it a mix of both? Because I know
It's
at the
probably a
beginning
mix
you
of
said
both.
like the core incompatibilities were there too. Yeah.
There are core incompatibilities. But I think a lot of it was also like, I felt like I should be able to be certain about someone after a certain amount of time. And if we've been dating now for like 6 to 8 months and I still feel a little uncertain, then that's not fair to that person, that I can't fully like, commit. I was committed, but like, I feel like, yeah, I should feel more certain. And a lot of that I gave, in time or a lot of that I had thought was, oh, because I just gone through a big breakup, I don't think that I'd be certain about anyone like now. Like the next person that you date after a big breakup, like I think I don't see myself being able to be like, this is like for sure,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So it's a combination, I think, of just like core incompatibilities and me feeling like if I'm not able to feel more certain about someone by a certain stage, it's not fair to like continue going.
Yeah. I mean, thinking ahead, like, are you thinking about continuing to date now? This is a question that I don't even know the answer to, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like you're not ready to date.
Here's the thing. I am not going back on apps. I'm not going to go talk to a matchmaker. I'm not going to do any deliberate behavior to try to welcome in a relationship right now.
Okay, damn, okay.
If I meet someone, if something happens naturally like it did with him, I wouldn't push it away.
Okay.
But I think once again, it's like, I still feel a little bit like any next person that I see is going to be like, I'm going to be a little scared and I'm going to need to it's going to be like lots of communication, lots of patience and that kind of thing, which I don't think is like a time thing that I have to wait till I'm healed to start dating. I don't think I'm going to have to confront those whether I wait a month or like 3 years, right? Because it's more about the next person, and the next time you have to like be entertaining a lot of those like same headspaces and feelings and all of those things again. So yeah, I'm not actively doing anything, but I'm also like open to like to something starting. Another thing about maybe our incompatibility, which ironically enough was something that I really admire about him, but maybe in the long run is like hard to make work, is that he's an incredibly passionate person, but sometimes can get like so passionate and will push boundaries and will push buttons. And I'm the opposite. I'm like a peacemaker. I like harmony, right? But I think that was one of what like the opposites attracting when I saw that about him. I was like, wow, that's like so admirable. I really like that. But sometimes just when that actually played out in the relationship, it was a little bit hard for me and probably hard for him too, because he would kind of like express opinions, and then I'm sure he felt like he was talking to a wall, because I would just be like, oh, I don't have anything to push.
Yes.
Yeah. And then on my end, sometimes I'm like, okay, like I want to always see the more balanced perspective. And so if you're going off and really digging into one direction, I get a little bit like, oh, that feels a little bit too strong-headed.
Yeah. So do you feel like in the future, like you would look for someone who is equally as passionate as he was of a person? Or are you kind of like thinking maybe like taper that back just a little bit? Or
I think, I mean, I could say, I think, like in reaction to the last person, like I don't want someone who is like so like impassioned. But the truth is that could still work for me given, you know, the context of other things. So.
Okay. Well, I don't want to focus just on, you know, what kind of didn't work out, you know. What are some positive takeaways that you can hold on to as like good memories from this relationship?
Yeah. I mean, he will forever be the most important person to me this year. This is weird. I don't think I've ever cried on the podcast.
Where's this coming from? Is it the question that I asked about the good? It wasn't on the outline, so you were not prepared for this question. We were focusing on the negatives, apparently.
I mean, this year was really, really hard.
We did not have to do this episode. Are you?
Yeah. I think it's important to be able to express it, because I know he knows, because we've had private conversations, but I think, this year was really, really challenging. And we've shared, for all three of us, like personal reasons, like all the transitions. But he was someone that just, I think, as much as we in our older age can rely on friends and family, everyone has their own people, right, at a certain stage. And so to go through challenging times alone is really hard. And him and I were both in places in our lives where we were going through big challenges, and we were just each other's people.
Yeah.
And so I think that, like, I will always have such fond memories of this relationship, because that's what I like. Those are the core things that I will come back to, is just feeling so like supported and loved, and also feeling like this was a person I could also effectively support and bring positive benefit to. I think especially after going through a breakup where, you know, it's not right to have the mindset that you like failed, right, when the relationship didn't work out, but you cannot help but have those thoughts.
Yeah.
And a lot of that sometimes feeling like, oh, I was not an effective partner for this person. And with him, I felt like I could be an effective partner. And that was so like personally rewarding.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that.
I mean, these feelings that you're feeling, like, are you both still in contact? Did it end well?
Yeah,
you know?
It's a weird thing. It's like, so, I mean, I was in contact with the last person I dated as well, but not in the same way. I think for us, because there wasn't a big falling out. Like, it was kind of just we both started feeling like we both kind of knew when we first met that there was like this isn't necessarily, we were so both careful about entering into it, right? And so I think as the relationship progressed, things got good, but then also some of those core base things felt more prominent. And at the end of the day, it was like, okay, well, maybe it doesn't feel like there's a big event or reason to depart, but if we feel in our gut like it's not going to work out, better to like just cut it. But the core base of how we developed our relationship was through friendship. And so whether it's unique or not, like we are still, we've said we'll still check in with each other and have conversations like once every 2 weeks maybe, and just like see how each other are doing, just because a lot of how we first developed and the purpose that we served in each other's lives was to be a support system. And he knows so much about the stuff that I was going through this year, and I know so much about the stuff that he was going through, that it's like it would be such a shame for that to just like cold turkey end, you know?
Yeah, I think that's like the hardest part of any relationship, especially if it's one that didn't end because of a reason, like an event or a reason for it to just like to be so confident that this is why we need to break up. This was someone that you loved and he loved you back, and it's hard when your lives were so integrated and then all of a sudden like you just after this one decision it's like, oh, I don't think I can call you again. I don't think I can like reach out when I need to, when that's become habitual. It's just like I just know that you had always been there. So you're still in the thick of it for sure. And you're really strong, Janet, for being able to talk about it so eloquently and reflect back on it and realize also that you made the right decision for yourself, right? Like you feel confident in that decision and accepting this new phase of your life where you are leaning more into that confidence and into that play and just being open. I feel like you have a really beautiful new insight of how you perceive like Janet in the future to be like. And I think that's something that is just really powerful when you can really feel confident in that for yourself. But I know it's hard. Like it's what you're going through is so hard right now.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's weird. Like I think how I would describe the state is like I feel incredible grief and sadness, but I'm also capable of feeling incredible like excitement and happiness. And I guess that's like life, and that's it's a good way to be able to feel both, because I think at certain parts of this year I felt so heavy on the like grief and the not so great part. So
do you feel like he also instilled that like just play and that confidence back in you too?
I think a lot of this was like, I feel like he helped in a lot of my like healing this past year. And I know I did for him too. And so, I think that's why it's like so special.
And so hard to leave that behind. Do you feel like this, I mean, the tears are obviously reaching a point of a certain level of vulnerability. Do you feel like it's healing tears, or is it like, shit, I shouldn't have like talked about some of this stuff?
No,
tears?
I'm happy to talk about all this stuff always. Something
about putting a mic in front of you. You know, it's like we can have conversations off on the side and it's real, but something about, getting really I don't deep, and it strikes a different nerve. Well, what can we expect from Janet in 2025? We're already reaching the end of this year.
I cannot believe. We're already at the end of the year. What can we expect from me in 2025? I hope to be feeling more stable in like a sense of confidence and continuing to play. And does that sound weird?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I mean,
I think
I don't know.
Because you haven't had that for so long, even in like past relationship or whatever, you haven't felt playful in a while. Was 2024, was play your word for 2024?
It was.
I think it was.
It was, yeah. And I feel like I kind of willed it to happen, because in the beginning of the year it was not, I mean, it was happening. And then, I don't know, maybe it was the dynamic of, like I said, like I think you can hold both grief and joy at the same time. And so there were so many points this year where I was like, I felt incredible joy and like, motivated to experiment and play. And then there were a lot of times where I just felt completely lost and scared and still trying to heal. And so I think, 2025, maybe it will be hopefully more on the joyful end. Although I think now at this stage in life, I know so much that it isn't about trying to sustain a forever happy state, and that usually it's in being able to experience both that is so core to having a good, fulfilling life. So I guess 2025, like I'm just going to keep going. We'll see. I'm going to I think one of my big goals, though, is just to continuously be more open to what life has to give me. And that's part of what like playing and experimenting is about, is to not try to impose my own goals or my own plan. Because when I look at the times in my life where really good things have happened, it's not when I've planned it and I've pushed forward. It's when I've been open to doing things and I let things come to me. So I think I'm just, trying to just not be scared, not try to be too controlling, and just be open to whatever happens.
Open.
I
think that's your word for 2025.
Yes.
More open to new things. Oh. Is there anything else that you would like to share about this relationship this past year, Janet, in the phase that you're in? Any last words that you want to share? That was beautiful, by the way, so you don't have to.
Yeah. I think there is beauty in like connecting with people in whatever format that is. And a lot of my own self-judgment this past year was feeling like I was judging myself or it was just so hard to feel like to date again after going through a breakup or whatever that is. And I think just be open to connecting with people. And I don't know if that hits or not. The other thing I would say, like that my mom actually shared with me after I like let her know that I this person and I were not dating anymore. She's like, don't give up. Like keep going out there and keep dating. And so I guess I would offer for anyone else who's going through maybe multiple breakups in the course of a couple of years, if it feels right, to keep going and keep trying and keep opening yourself up to people, even though it's really hard. But yeah.
I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing this with our listeners. I know with the last relationship, we went through a whole entire few episodes covering this. And so this one episode covers the span of the relationship. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. But I appreciate your vulnerability. What you're going through is very real and relatable for a lot of people out there too. So just want to thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. And thank all of you for listening.
And with that, we will catch you all in the next episode. And I'm going to go give Janet a hug. Okay, bye. Before we wrap up today's episode, wanted to give a quick shout out to our ABG bestie of the day, Isabel from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Woo! Boston!
Yay, Isabel. Thank you so much.
If you would like to join our ABG besties, we have monthly Dear ABGs, where we tune in live with myself, Janet, and Mel, who's usually on a screen over here, and she's not here today. But you can talk to us live, and we love chatting with y'all there. So if you want to do that, definitely check out the link below to join our ABG besties.